Imagine you're a young woman in 1520, stepping trembling into the opulent yet foreboding halls of the Topkapi Palace harem, the air thick with the sweet, cloying scent of rosewater incense drifting from golden censers and the faint, eerie rustle of silk as veiled figures glide silently past. Your heart pounding with a mix of awe and dread as you realize this isn't the glamorous retreat history paints with its tales of luxury, but a gilded cage where power, fear, and strange bedroom rules dictate your every breath and heartbeat. You've likely pictured the Ottoman harem as a paradise of concubines, a myth spun by travelers' exaggerated tales and Hollywood's glittering dreams, but the reality is far darker, a secretive political machine where women were pawns in a ruthless game of control, their lives governed by rules so bizarre they'd shock even the most seasoned historian into silence. Welcome to the first part of our 7-part journey into the strange bedroom rules of the Ottoman harem, spanning from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history rooted in the Sultan's lavish courts, preserved in the faded pages of harem memoirs, the meticulous palace records etched in ink, and the whispered confessions of those who survived its walls. Historians like Leslie Pierce, in her groundbreaking work The Imperial Harem, peel back the layers of this hidden world with unflinching detail, and today, its chilling echoes linger in the power dynamics and gender inequalities exposed in the heated debates of 2025. If this already sends a shiver of unease and curiosity down your spine, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below where you're joining us from across the globe. Your voice pulls back the veil on this forgotten, haunting past. The Ottoman harem was no mere seraglio, but a complex institution where women were both treasures and tools of statecraft. Picture the scene, the warm, golden glow of brass oil lamps casting long, wavering shadows across the marble walls adorned with intricate, colorful tile work that glimmers in the flickering light, the smooth, cool texture of a silk veil brushing against your face as it's adjusted by an unseen hand with a firm grip, the cold, unyielding bite of a stone floor beneath your bare feet as you're led deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the air thick with the sweet, intoxicating aroma of rosewater. Incense wafting from every corner and the subtle, tense trace of whispered commands that hang in the stillness. Founded during the reign of Osman I, the harem evolved into a political powerhouse by the 16th century under sultans like Suleiman the Magnificent, housing hundreds of concubines, wives, and servants, all under the sultan's absolute, unyielding authority. Historical records, like the Kitab-i-Tevri compiled by court chroniclers, detail how these women were acquired through the chaos of war, the delicate threads of diplomatic marriages, or the devshirm system that tore children from their families, their beauty, obedience, and potential for producing heirs shaping their fate with every step they took. The air carried the faint, exotic scent of spices drifting from the bustling palace kitchens and the ever-present, suffocating hint of fear that clung to the walls, a world where the harem's ornate beauty hid a system of control so tight that every glance was monitored by eunuch guards, every movement calculated to serve the sultan's will. Was this a sanctuary of luxury promised by legend, or a prison of power where your life hung on the sultan's unpredictable whim, a place where the line between privilege and peril blurred with every passing hour? The question lingers as the shadows deepen across the tiled walls. Many who entered this world, women torn from their homes and thrust into this alien realm, eunuchs enforcing order with cold precision, sultans wielding dominance with a velvet glove, faced the crushing weight of this isolation, their resilience tested by the constant scrutiny, their fear a constant, oppressive shadow cast by the towering arches, their stories buried beneath the palace's grandeur and the weight of forgotten centuries, their pain a silent, persistent cry lost to the rustle of silk and the echo of distant footsteps. But the harem's true strangeness lay in the bedroom rules that governed intimacy, survival, and the very essence of their existence. Imagine the oppressive, heart-pounding atmosphere, the faint, resonant chime of a silver bell signaling the sultan's imminent approach through the corridors, the bitter, herbal taste of a draft forced upon you to calm your fraying nerves and ensure compliance, the heavy, final thud of a carved wooden door locking you into a chamber adorned with rich velvet drapes and golden tassels. Eyewitness accounts, such as those preserved in the memoirs of Ais Hafsah Sultan, the mother of Suleiman, reveal a web of rules dictating everything from the precise timing of encounters to the meticulous preparation of the bedchamber, sheets perfumed, candles arranged, every detail orchestrated to ensure the sultan's pleasure and the dynasty's continuity. The air grew thick with the musky scent of exotic perfumes and the subtle, pervasive trace of dread that seeped into every corner, a world where these rules were both a shield against rival concubines and a shackle binding you to a life of servitude. Historians note that failure to comply with these edicts could mean banishment to a remote palace, starvation, or even death by intrigue, turning the harem into a stage of psychological warfare where every night was a battle for survival. Was this a cultural norm accepted as the foundation of Ottoman power, or a deliberate, calculated tool of subjugation designed to break your spirit, a system where bedroom rules defined your fate with every breath you took? The question hangs as the bell tolls through the silence. Many endured this relentless regimen, women bound by tradition and terror, guards enforcing silence with unwavering vigilance, sultans demanding perfection, their resilience a fragile, flickering thread stretched thin by the weight of expectation, their pain a hidden, festering toll paid in silent tears, their voices lost to the chamber's echo and the distant hum of palace life. But what rules governed your first night? What horrors awaited behind the veil of this opulent prison? Smash that like button if you're intrigued by this dark unveiling, and subscribe now to uncover the truth that history has long concealed. Imagine you're a young woman in 1550, standing in a vast, echoing chamber of the Topkapi Palace harem, the air heavy with the sharp, piercing scent of myrrh wafting from ornate burners and the faint, metallic clink of jewelry as eunuchs circle you like vultures, their cold, unyielding hands inspecting your skin with clinical precision, your heart racing with a mix of dread and disbelief as you realize your beauty is both your golden ticket into this world and the chain that will bind you to it forever. From the veiled mystique of Part 1, you might have pictured the harem as a random assembly of luxury, a place of idle splendor, but the truth is far more chilling, a ruthless, meticulously designed selection process where beauty became a weapon of control, shaping the strange bedroom rules that would dictate your every intimate moment and strip away your autonomy. Welcome to Part 2 of our 7-part journey into the Ottoman harem, spanning from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history preserved in the dusty palace archives, the fragile memoirs of those who endured, and the silent testimony of the harem's walls. Historians like Alan Dubin, through his detailed studies of Ottoman social structures, uncover this systematic exploitation, and today, its echoes linger in the 2025 media's relentless obsession with idealized beauty standards and the commodification of women's bodies. If this sends a shiver of unease and intrigue through you, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your reaction to this hidden selection. Your voice exposes the harem's dark design. The selection process began with a meticulous, almost surgical evaluation of your physical form, a ritual as cold and invasive as the marble halls you stood in. Picture the scene, the warm, flickering glow of oil lamps reflecting off polished marble walls etched with swirling arabesque patterns, the smooth, silken texture of a robe sliding over your shoulders as you're posed like a statue for inspection. The cold, unyielding touch of a eunuch's fingers measuring your waist, tracing your jawline, assessing your eyes, the air thick with the sharp, resinous aroma of myrrh and the subtle, tense trace of your own fear rising with every breath. By the 16th century, under sultans like Selim II, the harem employed Khalfa, experienced female overseers, who assessed girls brought through the chaos of war, the devshirm system, or diplomatic gifts, checking for physical symmetry, flawless skin tone, and even the delicate shape of your hands and feet. Historical records, like the harem defteri ledgers meticulously compiled by palace scribes, list these criteria with chilling detail, noting how only the most striking were chosen, their beauty transformed into a currency in a political game where alliances and heirs were forged. The air carried the faint, exotic scent of perfumed oils used to anoint the selected and the ever-present, suffocating hint of dread that settled in the room, a world where your appearance determined your fate. Rejection meant a life of menial servitude, acceptance a deeper, more perilous trap within the sultan's bedchamber. Was this a celebration of aesthetic perfection, a nod to cultural ideals, or a calculated exploitation that turned your beauty into a prison from which there was no escape? The question lingers as the lamps cast long shadows. Many who faced this grueling scrutiny, women judged with merciless precision, eunuchs enforcing the sultan's standards, Khalfa wielding their authority, endured the crushing weight of this objectification, their resilience tested by the constant evaluation, their fear a constant, oppressive shadow cast by the flickering light, their stories buried beneath the ledger pages and the silence of the harem's walls, their pain a silent, persistent burden carried in every measured step. But the control extended far beyond mere beauty into a grueling, soul-crushing training regimen designed for the bedroom. Imagine the oppressive, heart-pounding atmosphere, the faint, rhythmic rustle of parchment as a Kalfa reads aloud a list of rules in a stern, unyielding tone, the bitter, earthy taste of a tonic forced down your throat to enhance your allure and dull your resistance, the heavy, authoritative thud of a wooden staff marking the end of a lesson on seduction or dance. Girls selected from the initial inspection were subjected to months of preparation, trained in the art of dance to captivate, the etiquette to please, and the subtle arts of seduction to ensure the sultan's favor, their bodies molded like clay, their minds conditioned to obey without question. Eyewitness accounts, such as those from Nurbanu Sultan, who rose from concubine to Valide Sultan, describe this process with haunting clarity, noting how failure to master these skills meant flogging, isolation in a remote cell, or banishment to a provincial harem, turning the opulent chambers into a school of submission where every misstep was a potential downfall. The air grew thick with the musky scent of training oils rubbed into your skin and the subtle, pervasive trace of despair that clung to the training halls, a world where beauty was a tool wielded by the powerful, controlled the ultimate goal of this relentless regimen. Historians like Dubin argue that this training reflected the Sultan's need for absolute loyalty, a system where readiness for the bedroom was a strategic asset, ensuring the dynasty's survival through heirs and obedience. Was this a cultural tradition upheld as the backbone of imperial prestige, or a deliberate, systematic breaking of spirit to secure the Sultan's dominance, a world where selection and training shaped your fear with every practiced gesture? The question hangs as the staff thuds against the marble floor. Many suffered through this, women molded into roles they never chose, overseers enforcing the Sultan's will with cold efficiency, peers competing in silence, their resilience a fragile, flickering thread stretched thin by the weight of expectation, their pain a hidden, festering scar etched into their souls, their voices lost to the rustle of parchment and the distant echo of commands. But the real control was yet to come. What awaited in the rituals that followed this brutal selection? Smash that like button if you're captivated by this dark revelation, and subscribe now to dive deeper into the harem secrets. Imagine you're a concubine in 1570, kneeling in a dimly lit chamber of the Topkapi Palace harem, the air thick with the smoky scent of sandalwood and the faint jingle of golden anklets as eunuchs prepare you for the Sultan's arrival, your heart sinking with dread as you realize the strange bedroom ceremony about to unfold will strip away your last shred of autonomy. From the calculated selection of Part 2, you might think the harem's control ended with beauty, but the truth is far more unsettling, a series of rituals designed to enforce submission through bizarre bedroom ceremonies that defined your role in this imperial prison. Welcome to Part 3 of our 7-part journey into the Ottoman Harem, from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history preserved in the delicate memoirs of harem women, the strict protocols of palace documents, and the echoes of those who lived it. Historians like Gulran Esipoglu, in her analysis of Ottoman court life, uncover these practices, and today, their shadows linger in 2025 rituals of control within some modern institutions. If this sends a chill of anticipation through you, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your thoughts, your voice reveals the harem's hidden rites. These bedroom ceremonies began with the laying out ritual, a public display of your submission. Picture the scene. The warm glow of candelabras casting flickering shadows on walls lined with intricate mosaics, the smooth texture of a silk sheet spread beneath you as you're positioned on a low dais, the cold touch of a eunuch's hands adjusting your posture, the air thick with the smoky aroma of sandalwood and the subtle, tense trace of your own fear. By the 16th century, under sultans like Murad III, this ritual involved presenting the chosen concubine to the sultan, her body adorned with jewels and perfumes, her every movement choreographed to signal readiness. Historical accounts, such as those in the memoirs of Safavi Sultan, describe how this ceremony was witnessed by harem officials, turning intimacy into a performance, a spectacle to cement the sultan's power. The air carried the faint scent of burning incense and the ever-present hint of humiliation, a world where submission was ritualized, where your dignity was the price of entry. Was this a cultural tradition honoring the sultan, or a deliberate humiliation, a system where ceremonies broke your spirit? The question lingers as the shadows dance. Many who endured this, women displayed like trophies, eunuchs enforcing order, faced the weight of this exposure, their resilience tested, their fear a constant shadow, their stories buried beneath the mosaics, their pain a silent plea. The rituals escalated with the first night ceremony, a test of obedience and endurance. Imagine the oppressive atmosphere. The faint chime of a silver bell announcing the sultan's entrance, the bitter taste of a sedative draught forced upon you to calm your nerves, the heavy thud of a door sealing you in with velvet curtains. This ceremony, detailed in palace records like the Tezkayrai Harem, required the concubine to remain silent and still, her reactions monitored to prove loyalty, with failure met with severe consequences. Eyewitness testimonies, such as those from harem chronicler Gulfam Hatton, reveal how this tested physical and mental limits, a ritual rooted in the sultan's need for absolute control. The air grew thick with the musky scent of perfumes and the subtle trace of dread, a world where every breath was a struggle, every silence a surrender. Historians note this reflected the harem's role in dynastic stability, a system where ceremonies shaped your fear. Was this a religious duty, or a calculated tool of power, a world where rituals defined your fate? The question hangs as the bell fades. Many suffered this, women bound by silence, guards enforcing rules, their resilience a fragile thread, their pain a hidden wound, their voices lost to the curtain's rustle. But what secrets hid in these rites? What deeper horrors lay ahead? Smash that like button if you're gripped. And subscribe now to uncover more. Imagine you're a concubine in 1600, lying in a velvet-draped chamber of the Topkapi Palace harem, the air heavy with the musky, intoxicating scent of rare oils and the faint, eerie creak of a heavy wooden door as a towering eunuch enters, his stern, unblinking gaze piercing through the dim light, your heart freezing with a mix of dread and helplessness as you realize he's here to enforce the sultan's strange bedroom rules with unrelenting, cold vigilance. From the rituals of submission in Part 3, you might have thought the harem's control peaked with ceremonies, but the truth is far more invasive, a system where eunuchs acted as unyielding guardians, monitoring your every intimate moment with chilling precision and turning the bedchamber into a space of constant surveillance. Welcome to Part 4 of our 7-part journey into the Ottoman Harem, from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history preserved in the guarded palace logs stained with ink, the whispered, fragmented tales of harem survivors, and the stark, unvarnished reality of their oversight etched into the harem's very stones. Historians like Jane Hathaway, through her meticulous research on Ottoman eunuchs and the chief eunuch of the Ottoman harem, reveal this shadowy role, and today, its echoes linger in the 2025 debates over surveillance, privacy, and the commodification of personal space in a digital age. If this sends a wave of discomfort and fascination through you, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your thoughts on this hidden watch, your voice shines a light on the harem's darkest corners. Eunuchs were the silent, omnipresent enforcers of the harem's bedroom rules, their presence a constant, suffocating reminder of the control that defined your existence. Picture the scene, the warm, flickering glow of a single oil lamp casting long, wavering shadows on walls adorned with gilded arabesques that seem to close in around you, the smooth, luxurious texture of a velvet curtain brushing against your arm as you wait in tense anticipation, the cold, unyielding stare of a eunuch standing guard with a polished staff, his silhouette towering in the doorway, the air thick with the musky, heady aroma of oils used to anoint the chamber and the subtle, tense trace of your own anxiety rising with every shallow breath. By the 17th century, under sultans like Ahmed I, eunuchs, often castrated slaves brought from Africa or the Caucasus through the slave trade, were entrusted with the sacred and sinister task of overseeing the sultan's bedchamber, ensuring no unauthorized intimacy occurred, their authority absolute and unquestioned within these ornate walls. Historical records, like the Rusnaim Palace diaries meticulously kept by court scribes, detail how they inspected the bedding for signs of forbidden activity, monitored the concubine's movements with hawk-like precision, and reported even the slightest breach to the sultan, turning the harem into a fortified fortress of virtue where every corner was watched. The air carried the faint, sacred scent of incense offered in daily prayers and the ever-present, suffocating hint of fear that clung to the marble floors, a world where their gaze was your prison, where every whispered word, every furtive glance, was a risk that could seal your fate. Was this a safeguard of the sultan's purity and the harem's sanctity, a noble duty in the eyes of the court, or a calculated tool of oppression that stripped away your humanity with every watchful eye? The question lingers as the shadows shift across the walls. Many who lived under this relentless oversight, women subjected to constant scrutiny, eunuchs wielding power with cold efficiency, sultans relying on their loyalty, endured the crushing weight of this surveillance, their resilience tested by the never-ending vigilance, their fear a constant, oppressive shadow cast by the flickering lamp, their stories buried beneath the palace logs and the silence imposed by their guards, their pain a silent, persistent burden carried in every measured heartbeat. Their oversight extended deep into the most intimate moments, enforcing bizarre and intrusive protocols that governed your every interaction. Imagine the oppressive, heart-pounding atmosphere, the faint, deliberate rustle of silk as a eunuch adjusts your position with a firm hand, the bitter, herbal taste of a concoction forced upon you to ensure compliance and dull your resistance, the heavy, authoritative thud of a staff against the floor signaling the sultan's imminent approach through the winding corridors. Palace records, such as those from the reign of Osman II, describe how eunuchs dictated the precise timing and manner of encounters, ensuring the sultan's pleasure while preventing the formation of emotional bonds that might threaten his authority, a rule rooted in the dynastic need to secure heirs without rivalry. Eyewitness accounts, like those from the harem chronicler Hadisi Turhan, who later became Valide Sultan, reveal how these guardians stood just outside the chamber doors, their ears attuned to every sound, listening for signs of disobedience or affection, their presence a psychological shackle that turned intimacy into a performance under scrutiny. The air grew thick with the rich, musky scent of perfumes applied in specific patterns and the subtle, pervasive trace of dread that settled in your chest, a world where privacy was a distant memory, where every breath was a struggle against the weight of their watchful eyes, every silence a surrender to the Sultan's will. Historians like Hathaway argue that this oversight reflected the Sultan's desperate need for control over his lineage and the harem's hierarchy, a system where the eunuch's vigilance defined your fate with every monitored moment. Was this a cultural duty upheld as the backbone of imperial stability, or a deliberate, invasive invasion of your most personal space, a world where eunuchs intensified your fear with every step they took? The question hangs as the staff thuds with finality. Many suffered under this relentless watch, women stripped of privacy and autonomy, eunuchs enforcing the sultan's will with unyielding resolve, peers silenced by the same fear, their resilience a fragile, flickering thread stretched thin by the constant pressure, their pain a hidden, festering scar etched into their souls, their voices lost to the rustle of silk and the distant echo of their own suppressed cries. Yet the pressure intensified. What further rules awaited in the shadows of this guarded domain? Smash that like button if you're gripped by this dark revelation, and subscribe now to explore the next layer of the harem secrets. Imagine you're a concubine in 1620, lying in a dimly lit chamber of the Topkapi Palace harem, the air thick with the sweet, intoxicating scent of jasmine drifting from a golden censer and the faint, anxious rustle of silk as a midwife examines you with practiced hands, your heart pounding with a volatile mix of hope and sheer terror as you realize a pregnancy could elevate you to the coveted role of Valide Sultan, or doom you to ruin under the harem's strange, unforgiving bedroom rules that govern life and death. From the eunuch oversight of Part 4, you might have thought the harem's control was merely about surveillance, a watchful eye keeping order, but the truth is far more perilous, a world where pregnancy carried the crushing weight of dynastic power, turning the bedchamber into a battlefield where every heartbeat could determine your fate. Welcome to Part 5 of our 7-part journey into the Ottoman Harem, from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history preserved in the fragile, tear-stained pages of harem diaries, the tense, cryptic correspondence of palace officials, and the lived experiences of those who bore its unbearable consequences. Historians like Leslie Pierce, in her authoritative work The Imperial Harem, illuminate this high-stakes dynamic with unflinching detail, and today, its haunting echoes linger in the 2025 global struggles over reproductive rights, gender autonomy, and the lingering shadows of patriarchal control. If this stirs your curiosity and unease, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your thoughts on this perilous game. Your voice uncovers the harem's high stakes. Pregnancy in the harem was a double-edged sword, a path to power that came with a razor's edge of peril and uncertainty. Picture the scene, the warm, soothing glow of a brass lamp casting soft, trembling shadows on walls lined with turquoise tiles that shimmer with an almost mocking beauty, the smooth, plush texture of a silk cushion beneath you as you wait for the midwife's verdict with bated breath, the cold, clinical touch of her hands assessing your swelling form, the air thick with the sweet, floral aroma of jasmine and the subtle, tense trace of your own anticipation mingled with dread. By the 17th century, under sultans like Osman II, a concubine's pregnancy could elevate her to the prestigious rank of Valide Sultan if she bore a healthy son who ascended the throne, but this promise was a fragile illusion, contingent on the child's survival amidst the treacherous politics of the court. Historical records, like the harem Sisalat registers compiled with meticulous care, detail how pregnancies were monitored with obsessive precision, diets adjusted with herbal concoctions, movements restricted to a confined space, and every symptom recorded to ensure a viable heir, turning the bedchamber into a battleground where the stakes were life, death, and power itself. The air carried the faint, medicinal scent of teas brewed to strengthen the mother and the ever-present, suffocating hint of danger that lurked in every corner, a world where a child meant the potential for influence and wealth, or a target on your back, where rivals plotted in silence. Was this a rare reward for your service and sacrifice, a glimmer of hope in a dark existence, or a treacherous gamble with your life and your child's, a system where pregnancy shaped your fate with every uncertain breath? The question lingers as the lamp's light wavers. Many who faced this harrowing ordeal, women bearing the Sultan's heirs under intense scrutiny, midwives enforcing the palace's rigid protocols, eunuchs guarding against interference, endured the crushing weight of this pressure, their resilience tested by the constant threat, their fear a constant, oppressive shadow cast by the tiled walls, their stories buried beneath the meticulous registers and the silence of the harem's depths, their pain a silent, persistent toll paid in every anxious moment. The stakes escalated dramatically with the political and deadly consequences of childbirth, transforming the bedchamber into a theater of intrigue. Imagine the oppressive, heart-pounding atmosphere, the faint, piercing cry of a newborn echoing through the chamber like a fragile beacon. The bitter, earthy taste of a tonic forced upon you to aid your recovery and ensure your silence, the heavy, deliberate thud of a guard's boots as rival concubines plot in the shadows beyond the velvet curtains. Palace documents, such as those from the reign of Murad IV, reveal how a successful birth could ignite ferocious succession wars, with mothers and their infants becoming targets of jealousy and ambition, their lives hanging by a thread. Eyewitness accounts, like those from Kozum Sultan, who navigated this perilous landscape, describe chilling acts of poisoning slipped into food, strangulations carried out in secret and infanticide whispered about in the harem's corridors, the bedchamber a stage where power was won or lost with every labor pain. The air grew thick with the sacred scent of incense offered in desperate prayers and the subtle, pervasive trace of dread that settled like a weight on your chest, a world where the joy of motherhood was overshadowed by the constant threat of death, where every coo of a child could be your last. Historians like Pierce note that this reflected the Sultan's urgent need for a strong, uncontested line of succession, a system where pregnancy and childbirth defined your fear with every guarded step. Was this a cultural necessity to maintain the empire's stability, a tradition upheld at any cost, or a calculated trap designed to keep you in perpetual terror, a world where childbirth brought ruin as often as reward? The question hangs as the boots fade into the distance. Many suffered under this relentless pressure, women caught in deadly power struggles, guards enforcing order with cold indifference, rivals silenced by fear, their resilience a fragile, flickering thread stretched to its breaking point, their pain a hidden, festering wound carried in silence, their voices lost to the newborn's cry and the rustle of plotting whispers. But the consequences were dire. What horrors followed a failed birth or a rival's success? Smash that like button if you're captivated by this dark twist, and subscribe now to dive deeper into the harem's treacherous depths. Imagine you're a concubine in 1650, confined to a cold, damp stone-walled cell deep within the Topkapi Palace harem, the air thick with the stale, musty scent of damp earth seeping through the cracks and the faint, ominous clank of iron chains as a towering eunuch locks the heavy door behind him, your heart sinking with a crushing wave of despair and helplessness. As you realize the punishment for breaking a bedroom rule has stripped away your voice, your freedom, and your very identity. From the perilous stakes of pregnancy in Part 5, you might have thought the harem's control culminated with the dangers of childbirth, but the truth is far more brutal and unforgiving, a world where breaking the strange, ironclad bedroom rules brought swift, silencing retribution that aimed to shatter your spirit and erase your existence from the annals of the palace. Welcome to Part 6 of our 7-part journey into the Ottoman Harem, from 1299 to 1922, a taboo history preserved in the grim, ink-stained pages of palace records, the hushed, trembling testimonies of survivors who lived to tell fragments of their tales, and the invisible scars borne by those who dared to defy the Sultan's will. Historians like Metin Kunt, through his detailed analysis of Ottoman governance in the Sultan's servants, expose this harsh reality with stark clarity, and today, its haunting echoes linger in the 2025 stories of abuse survivors who fight tirelessly to reclaim their voices against oppressive silence. If this stirs your empathy and resolve, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your reaction to this silent struggle. Your voice honors the resilience of those lost to history. Punishment for breaking bedroom rules was immediate, severe, and designed with chilling precision to crush your will and enforce absolute obedience. Picture the scene. The warm, unsteady flicker of a torch casting jagged, menacing shadows on rough, unyielding stone walls that seem to close in around you, the smooth, rough texture of a coarse woolen blanket beneath you as you shiver in the cold. The cold, biting sting of iron shackles clamped tightly around your wrists, the air thick with the stale, earthy scent of damp earth rising from the floor and the subtle, tense trace of your own fear growing with every labored breath. By the 17th century, under sultans like Ibrahim I, concubines who disobeyed, whether by forming forbidden emotional bonds, failing to please the sultan, or resisting the rigid protocols, faced a cascade of punishments including public flogging that left lasting marks, prolonged solitary confinement in these dank cells, or banishment to remote, desolate palaces where hope withered. Historical records, like the harem canonomacy decrees etched into stone tablets, detail these penalties with cold efficiency, noting how a single infraction could lead to months of darkness, breaking not just physical resolve but the very core of your mental strength, turning the harem into a prison where punishment was the ultimate teacher. The air carried the faint, persistent sound of dripping water echoing through the silence and the ever-present, suffocating hint of despair that clung to every corner, a world where the lash, the lock, and the isolation were your constant companions, where silence was the price of survival. Was this a necessary deterrent to maintain order within the sultan's domain, a harsh but accepted norm, or a deliberate, systematic breaking of spirit designed to keep you submissive with every strike? The question lingers as the shadows deepen across the cell. Many who endured this relentless punishment, women beaten and broken by merciless hands, eunuchs enforcing justice with cold, unfeeling precision, sultans demanding unwavering loyalty, faced the crushing weight of this cruelty, their resilience tested by the unending torment, their fear a constant, oppressive shadow cast by the torchlight, their stories buried beneath the weight of decrees and the silence of their confinement, their pain a silent, persistent cry swallowed by the damp walls. The silence imposed upon you was as punishing as the physical acts, a cruel tool wielded to erase your identity and render you invisible within the harem's hierarchy. Imagine the oppressive, heart-pounding atmosphere, the faint, deliberate rustle of a guard's robe as he checks your isolation with a slow, methodical pace, the bitter, dry taste of stale bread forced upon you as your only sustenance, the heavy, final thud of a reinforced door sealing you into your solitude with an echoing finality. Palace logs, such as those meticulously recorded during Mehmed IV's reign, reveal how survivors of punishment were forbidden to speak, their names systematically erased from official records, their existence denied to protect the harem's pristine image and the sultan's reputation. Eyewitness accounts, like those from the harem chronicler Turhan Hadisi, who witnessed this firsthand, describe the devastating psychological toll, where the enforced silence became a prison of the mind, a void where your thoughts screamed but found no release, turning the cell into a tomb of forgotten souls. The air grew thick with the musty, neglected scent of the cell's corners and the subtle, pervasive trace of hopelessness that seeped into your bones, a world where your voice was stolen, your identity reduced to a shadow, your humanity stripped away. Historians like Kant argue that this reflected the sultan's desperate need for secrecy and control over the harem's narrative, a system where silence was the ultimate punishment, defining your fate with every muted breath. Was this a cultural norm upheld to preserve the empire's dignity, a tradition etched in stone, or a calculated erasure of your very being, a world where punishment broke your soul with every passing day? The question hangs as the door's echo fades into the darkness. Many suffered under this relentless silencing, women condemned to oblivion, guards enforcing a mute existence, peers too afraid to speak, their resilience a fragile, flickering thread stretched to its breaking point, their pain a hidden, festering wound carried in silence, their voices lost to the rustle of robes and the distant drip of water. What legacy did this leave? What scars remain etched into the harem's history? Smash that like button if you're moved by their silent strength, and subscribe now to discover the final chapter of this dark tale. Imagine you're standing in a quiet, dimly lit museum gallery in 2025, the air filled with the dusty, nostalgic scent of ancient artifacts carefully preserved on weathered shelves and the soft, mechanical hum of a display case slowly rotating to reveal a gilded harem mirror etched with faint, cryptic designs, your fingers hesitating as they trace its cool, smooth surface, your heart growing heavy with a deep sorrow as a news alert buzzes on your phone about modern gender inequality, connecting you to the silenced women who once stared into its reflection. From the punishment and silence of Part 6, you might have thought the harem's story faded into obscurity with the empire's fall, but the truth is far more enduring and unsettling, a legacy where the strange, oppressive bedroom rules of the Ottoman Harem, from 1299 to 1922, still cast long, inescapable shadows over today's world, shaping the struggles we face. Welcome to the final chapter of our 7-part journey into this taboo history, a narrative preserved in the faded, ink-smudged pages of palace records, the poignant, tear-stained memoirs of survivors who clung to their stories, and the thoughtful reflections of historians who seek to understand its lasting impact. Historians like Leslie Pierce, in her authoritative work The Imperial Harem, trace this influence with meticulous care, and today, its haunting echoes resonate in the 2025 global debates on consent, autonomy, and the enduring fight against gender-based oppression that echoes through our screens and streets. If this moves you with a mix of sorrow, inspiration, and resolve, hit that like button and subscribe now. Comment below your reflections on this enduring legacy. Your voice closes this journey with purpose and ignites a call to action. The harem's bedroom rules shaped gender dynamics that persist into 2025, leaving an indelible mark on how power and submission are perceived. Picture the scene, the warm, golden glow of a spotlight illuminating the cracked, weathered surface of that harem mirror, its glass reflecting not just your face but the faint, ghostly outlines of those who came before, the smooth, cool texture of its frame under your fingertips as you peer into its depths, the cold, hard marble floor beneath your feet grounding you in the present, the air thick with the dusty, earthy aroma of antiquity rising from the artifacts and the subtle, reflective trace of sorrow that seems to linger in the room like a silent witness. After the Ottoman Empire's fall in 1922, the harem's rigid control over women's bodies and intimate lives influenced the structure of colonial harems in North Africa and the Middle East, then seeped into modern patriarchal structures across the globe, embedding deep-seated ideas of submission, surveillance, and the commodification of female agency that still linger in our societies. Historical texts, like the Sayahatname by the 17th-century traveler of Liya Shalebi, offer glimpses of this legacy through descriptions of harem life, while the 20th-century feminist movements began to challenge these ingrained norms, sparking a slow but determined unraveling of the past's hold. The air carries the faint, leathery scent of preserved documents and a fragile, hopeful hint of progress yet to come, a world where the harem's rules inform the present struggles for equality and justice. Was this a lesson from history that we have repeatedly ignored, allowing similar patterns of control to persist, or a foundational challenge that demands we build a future of equity and empowerment, a system where the harem's legacy shapes our fight today? The question lingers as the spotlight's light begins to dim in the quiet gallery. Many who lived through this oppressive regime, women silenced by tradition and fear, reformers inspired by their untold pain, modern advocates echoing their cries, left behind a legacy of unyielding resilience, their spirits tested by the weight of history, their fear a lingering shadow cast by the mirror's reflection, their stories emerging as a clarion call to action that resonates through time. Their pain a quiet, persistent echo driving the pursuit of a more just world beneath the grandeur of ancient relics. This legacy reverberates with striking clarity in 2025, reflected in today's fierce gender battles and the ongoing quest for liberation from historical chains. Imagine the somber, reflective atmosphere, the distant, mournful chime of a clock in the museum blending with the sharp, insistent buzz of a 2025 podcast discussing women's rights and the global fight against trafficking, the bitter, acrid taste of black coffee turning sour in your mouth as you read the survivor stories flashing across your screen, the cold, heavy realization settling into your chest as you connect these contemporary headlines to the trembling figures once bound by harem rules. The global #MeToo movement, with its powerful testimonies of survival and resistance, and the 2025 campaigns against human trafficking and gender-based violence echo the harem's oppressive control with uncanny precision. While modern Turkey grapples with debates over gender roles, its cultural identity still shaped by the Ottoman past's lingering traditions. The harem mirror, with its haunting reflection symbolizing both captivity and endurance, serves as a bridge that connects the past to the present, a tangible reminder of how the struggles of these women still inform the battles waged by their descendants today, urging us to recognize the continuity of their fight. Was this an inescapable cycle of oppression repeated through the ages, a pattern we are doomed to repeat unless we act with courage, or a clarion call to break free from the chains of history and forge a new path forward, a world where their legacy demands action, accountability, and change with every step we take? The question hangs as the chime fades into the hum of the modern world. Many fight on today, women reclaiming their power and agency with unshakable determination, advocates pushing forward against all odds, survivors sharing their stories to heal and inspire, their resilience a powerful, radiant beacon illuminating the path to justice, their pain a mirror reflecting the failures of centuries past, their voices urging us to remember, to learn, and to act with unwavering resolve against the darkness that lingers. This ends our journey through the shadowy corridors of the Ottoman harem and the horrific realities that haunted its women, but the fight for justice, dignity, and truth begins now, a battle that starts with each of us standing against the echoes of those strange bedroom rules. Smash that like button if you're inspired to make a difference, and subscribe now to join us in seeking a future where these voices are finally heard, honored, and empowered.